something like Simple Mills or Partake is like they're taking out gluten, they're taking out all of these heavy carbs, and they're taking out cane sugar, which is traditionally in like Chips Ahoy or an Oreo, but now they're replacing it with cassava starch or palm oil. So like pointless fats that don't have good fatty profiles and pointless carbs that don't really have any nutrients and are still metabolized by the body in the same way as a simple carbohydrate.
Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck, of course, always here with you. And this episode has literally been like a year in the making, maybe. So our featured guest first reached out to me July of 2021, and I couldn't be more thrilled to have him here. So let me tell you, he's the founder of Untitled, a company which makes modern, nutrient-dense premium cookies. Their soft, indulgent cookies are low sugar, gluten-free, grain-free, and full of prebiotics. The mission with Untitled stems from his own eating disorder with sugar, bad food sourced from a broken food system, and more. His own healing led him to look for healthier options, truly providing his body with what it needed to thrive. Learning to care for himself snowballed into a mission to change food for others. So please help me welcome Nick Naclerio. Nick, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Really glad to be here finally.
I know. We're finally here. I feel like we first started talking ages ago and then schedule and reschedule, but it all happens when it's supposed to, you know?
It does. Yeah, things were just getting off the ground. I was wild. I didn't know what I was doing with the 24 hours I was given in a day, and it was good to meet you back then, and I'm glad we're finally here today doing this. Yeah.
I know. I'm excited. And we're going to start with your story. But first, let's tell our members what they're getting this week. So members, your recipe is for healthier blackberry basil lemonade. So completely refreshing and delicious, perfect for these hot summer days. And you could add some seltzer if you want some bubbles, or you could pour it into like a popsicle mold and turn it into a popsicle, or maybe add a little alcohol to it, and have some spiked blackberry basil lemonade. So you're going to enjoy this one. You can thank me later. And thanks to Nick, our guest today, he's giving our members 20% off their first order of Untitled. So we'll give you guys those details in your email. And all I can say is if you're not already a member, I don't really know what you're waiting for, right? Here's what you do. You go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries. For $10 a month, you get weekly recipes, a monthly article or tool, extra discounts from me and our partners like today, plus access to live Q&A sessions. It is a total deal when you take advantage of the full offerings because you're saving far more than that $10 cost. And I know I always say this, but it really is a no-brainer way to show yourself that your health is a priority. Plus, by being a member, you support this podcast and this community so we can continue to bring you new episodes and experts every week because that is what I love to do. So help us make it happen. All right. All you have to do, go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries, or just click the link in the show notes. Then you don't have to remember that whole thing. Once you're there, you click support now, enter your email and payment method, click subscribe, and you're all set. You're going to get this week's recipe for the healthier blackberry basil lemonade. Again, turn it into a popsicle or a cocktail, whatever you want, and 10% off your first order from Untitled. All right, so Nick, take a couple minutes. Tell us your story. I know we mentioned in introducing you that, you had an eating disorder, but talk to us first about sort of growing up. What was life like, and when did you discover your eating disorder, and what were your habits?
Sure. So I grew up an hour north of New York City in Westchester, suburban community where you raise a family, but Italian-American family where food for us is centric to our days and our existence.
Sure.
And also, a form of love, a form of communication, which is love. So growing up in that environment, there were always 10 different types of cookies at my grandma's on the counter with cake and whatever she was baking. And instead of her saying, I love you, she would call me ugly. And then she would tell me eat another piece of cake or pie or
Oh,
something like that. Ugly in the nicest way possible. It was an
right, of
Italian. She would call me
course.
faccia brute or something like that and tell me I was a pest. But eating equated love. And then that in combination with the community that I grew up in, which was very sports oriented, lacrosse, soccer, going to the football field to support soccer players, and being that I was gay, or I am still gay, but found out that I was gay at a pretty young age. Thankfully, my family is very supportive of that. My aunt is gay too, so they knew at like 4 years old. It took me a little bit of time to figure that out, but around 7 or 8, I knew I was different, and everybody else did in school. So a lot of bullying and trauma in my younger years. I knew I was different. I didn't know how to channel that energy. I was definitely extraordinarily myself and very expressive. And as I was squashed down by that external environment, I started turning to food for comfort and for peace, because food was there for me every day and friends weren't.
Yeah.
And food also was connected to my family too. So just kept eating more food and then gaining more weight. So I started gaining a lot of weight at like 5, 6, 7 years old. I had a mole too. So that was another problem, not problem. It was cute. I removed it when I was 12 or 13. But all of that led to just being bullied, which then led to more eating. And then 11 or 12 years old, I was so overweight, starting to lie to myself and trying to convince myself that I was straight. And but food was there for me, and I just kept eating. It was a lot of like shameful eating. Then I started hiding the food because my family, my dad and brother, they were into fitness, so they were getting concerned, and their form of love was sort of yelling at me to stop eating. And then so that caused me to start hiding eating and then eating too much. And then I started becoming bulimic. So I would eat
Hmm.
secretly before everyone woke up in the morning, or when I got home from school, I would eat before someone else would get home uncontrollably. And it felt good at the time to binge on all these products: sugar, peanut
Yeah.
butter, rice, all of those binge foods. And then I had a couple of friends that were bulimic too. So it was like ecosystem that I created for myself. And then when I was about 14, I was still struggling with weight. I was not losing weight because I was bulimic, but also still overeating at times and not throwing up. And my mom caught me at dinner. I got up one night and then I had blood all over my shirt. And she, that was when my whole family was like, they were like, I was already in therapy before that, went to go see another therapist.
Yeah.
You need to go to therapy. So 14, started going to therapy once a week, and she would take me there. She would bribe me with food to go to an Italian restaurant after. But that was when my healing journey started. So I started taking care of myself when I was 14. I was taking care of myself, but then also became exercise bulimic. So working through the bulimia, but also exercising a lot and learning to take care of myself. And then slowly over a span of 10 years, moving towards moderation and gentleness with myself. So by the time I was 18, 19, I definitely wasn't completely healed. I still did have, occasional relapses or setbacks, but I was in great shape and I felt pretty comfortable with myself at that point. And then I was going through sort of like a rebellion stage too, but started taking care of myself. Then 14, 4 years later, went to culinary school, knew that I could be around food, so I decided to challenge myself and put myself around the sugar that I was around all the time. And then like simultaneously did CrossFit and ran 5 miles a day, but then was around that. I spent about 3 years in that industry. Horrible. I was super into mental health and retraining, rewiring my neural circuitry, and working in a kitchen and causing premature aging, and being around that food no longer really suited me, and it didn't really fill my heart up. And all of the pain in my life had caused me to go internal a lot, reframe a lot, and really learn what nutrition is, which I'm still learning. There is no there, and continually learning. And I still do have tendencies to overeat certain foods at times now when I'm stressed out or over caffeinated, but it's a gentle process. And anyway, so
Yeah, no, I mean, I love what you're sharing because I think so many of us in the process of finding our own balance, right? In this process, like sort of go between extremes or we tend to like overcorrect, And I think it's really interesting that you went to culinary school as part of your healing because this particularly resonates with me. My backup plan when I moved to New York was culinary school. But I'm really curious, like you chose to challenge yourself. And I'm curious, like by being around food, right? What did you learn in that helped shift your relationship with food?
being around that food that I was around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, and learning food in that way, which I think, culinary school is a different experience around food than just like the eating piece.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely allowed me to see food in a different capacity and expand on it as an art form and to really
Hmm.
appreciate and quantities to an extent. But being around that too actually showed me all of the different disgusting types of sugar there are and how there are really so many chemically produced and made ingredients that should not go in our bodies, and they're like 80% of what we eat. And even expensive Michelin star restaurants put these chemicals into this food, and it was like heartbreaking. Like it's like this world is built on sticks. So that's what I learned about food in that industry. I also learned about their hearty foods too that really heal. Very simple, like foods that just come from nature. And I think seeing that contrast helped me learn.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting too. Like there's so many foods out there too, where it's like not just taking out bad ingredients, right? But then I think sort of what gets added. But I love what you were saying too about this idea that like even a Michelin star restaurant, like the food quality is, I think we sort of have this misunderstanding sometimes that their intention with their food is nourishment, And yeah,
No.
you're like shaking your head now. Yeah.
Do you want me to respond? Yeah, no.
Go for it. Yeah.
I mean, it's just for most, it's a lot of appearance and it's a lot of trends in terms of what people love. And I mean, it's based, I think, on obsession. Like, what is a popular, for example, in the past couple of years, like truffle went through like huge lift in every restaurant. And you'd see that in so many of these restaurants. So I think it's just based on consumer demand as opposed to just quality, too.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to take this into sort of like not just restaurants, right? But then like packaged foods, because that's definitely where you are now. Really quick, let's do a message from our partner for this episode, Lumiere de Vie Skincare. Lumiere de Vie was founded by Amber Ridinger McLaughlin in response to her own experience of mere marginal results from countless costly creams. She realized the revitalization of her youthful skin could only occur if she developed products herself. Working closely with beauty scientists and exploring the most advanced ingredients derived from the earth and sea, Amber created Lumiere de Vie, the next generation of skincare. The extensive line of luxury skincare products is designed to address all skin types and concerns. With the highest quality natural ingredients and powerful formulas that help heal, soothe, moisturize, and protect, Lumiere de Vie acts as first aid for your skin. The result? Rejuvenated, luminous, beautiful-looking skin. So in honor of Nick being here today, I figured let's talk about the men's line of Lumiere de Vie. So it's really for everyone. The men's line has, everything you could be looking for, like a cleansing gel, face scrub, even a firming eye serum, right? And that's really just the beginning. Men need to take care of their skin too, guys, right? So I think it's also never been easier. All of these products range from like $25 to $35. You can do the skincare value kit, which gives you a cleanser, toner, and moisturizer for $75. I'm a big fan of the men's toner. They come in, it's like a tub with these like pre-soaked pads. So those days when you don't feel like washing your face, the toner pads are key. So ladies, you may want to give them a try too. Of course, because you're a Salad with a Side of Fries listener, you get 10% off plus free shipping. So simply text the word SKIN, SKIN, to 844-947-4846. You'll receive the link and coupon code right to your phone. Again, simply text the word SKIN, SKIN, to 844-947-4846 to try Lumiere de Vie skincare, get 10% off, and free shipping. This is a toll-free number. Standard text and data rates may apply. Okay, Nick. So you left sort of the restaurant culinary world and realized that all these packaged foods weren't necessarily, they would remove some of these ingredients we didn't want, but they didn't necessarily add in things that were doing anything for us. So maybe give us, what are some of those ingredients that these typical, I'm going to name names, right? Like Olipop, Magic Spoon, like Catalina Crunch. Like what are some of the ingredients that they're adding that really aren't giving us any nutritional value, even though they're maybe replacing something that also doesn't?
Yeah. As it relates to Olipop, I'm actually consuming Olipop today, funny enough. I honestly, from an Olipop perspective, there's really not too much bad in Olipop. I mean, they're not using any fillers, they're not using any bad additives at all. They're actually pretty good for you. I mean, the only thing that I could say is cassava root syrup, but if they're using that in a very limited amount, then it's fine. It's like low
Mhm.
glycemic. Speaking about Catalina Crunch, I mean, Catalina Crunch is a good brand, but something like allulose that's in Catalina Crunch is still a sugar alcohol, which doesn't have years of research, I guess. And then Magic Spoon again, as much as it's an animal product, I don't think we should be expanding on or continue creating products with that for the long term. Milk protein concentrate is not horrible, it's protein. And they are using allulose too, but I know you brought up those, but I think bringing up like a couple of others, like Simple Mills. I don't know if you've heard of them. Partake. What else? Fat Snacks. Let's talk about other non Poppy. Poppy is a soda brand.
Yeah.
I think Poppy is great. I mean, and it's fine, everything in moderation, but they still are using organic. They're still using sugar in limited amounts, but obviously everything in moderation. But something like Simple Mills or Partake is like they're taking out gluten, they're taking out all of these heavy carbs, and they're taking out cane sugar, which is traditionally in like Chips Ahoy or an Oreo, but now they're replacing it with cassava starch or palm oil. So like pointless fats that don't have good fatty profiles and pointless carbs that don't really have any nutrients and are still metabolized by the body in the same way as a simple carbohydrate. So I think those are the sugars that they take out typically aren't as good as another natural sugar that you can use. Like they're taking out cane sugar and replacing it with organic cane sugar. And it's not even just replacing it with bad ingredients. It's like they're not really putting anything good back in with nutrition in mind. So their nutritional profiles are not great. They're mediocre. It's like eating a Chips Ahoy, but with like 3 less grams of sugar. And thankfully, like 5 less chemicals that you can barely read, but there are still pointless ingredients in there that just aren't meant for people that are trying to promote their health.
Yeah, and I think part of that plays into like the price piece, right? Because a lot of that is a function of trying to keep a product in the same price point as its ultra processed, counterparts.
Yeah.
And I know you're really big on, integrity and transparency in the ingredients and the products. And so, like, if somebody was looking at a label, how would they go about, trying to see if this is the best option for themselves?
I mean, I think a large part of being able to look at a label is just having your own tool book or knowledge of what is pointless and what is not. So be cynical, look at everything and question it, and Google, right? Get a label, and we all have smartphones. Google what this starch is or this corn fiber, etc. Like all of these weird things. And then just always turn back to nutritionals as a baseline. Like
Yeah.
what are the nutrients that I'm getting out of this? Like, okay, there are 10 grams of fat. Where's the fat coming from? Like canola oil, palm fruit? Like what is that? Is that good for me? Where is the sugar coming from? How much fiber? Like look at things from a nutrition perspective.
For some of our newer listeners, we have some episodes from like 2019 about reading labels and what are we really looking for and kind of digging into that, because I think so many people get caught up in the calories and it's the quality of those calories. Where are they coming from? It's not like you were just saying, I appreciate what you said, because it's not the grams of fat. It's like, well, where is the fat coming from? What's the source of that? And is it providing nutrition versus just not being slightly, like you said, slightly better than the typical? And I know you also researched in coming up with your cookies, like you reverse engineered things and figured out shelf life. I'm so curious. What did you learn in figuring out shelf life?
One thing is sugar is a major, major shelf life extender. That's a huge
Yes.
thing. It's really not that hard to extend shelf life of natural products. Our main problem would be fat oxidation, because we have a decent amount of fat in our product. Not a lot. I mean, 2 cookies has 8 grams of fat from nuts, but it's just oxidation of fats. But there are easy ways to naturally avoid the spoilage, which is we use green tea extract and vitamin E.
You guys are using vitamin E and green tea extract. I feel like sugar and trans fats is what a typical brand would use, but is that what you see?
I can only speak on what I know. Definitely sugar, trans fats, solid, stable fats, something like a palm fruit or a palm oil helps stabilize a recipe or stabilize a formula. But I mean, I can get into what else. Like, if you look at the back of an Oreo, like all of these, there are a bunch of metals that actually help with shelf life, increasing the amount of baking powder. So the sodium also increases shelf life, but I can't really touch too much more on shelf life.
No, those are super helpful. And so you started to talk about what you guys use, right? So in formulating cookies, you really looked at how to add nutrients, right? So talk to us about what you guys do and the ingredients that you guys use to help actually provide nutrition.
Yeah. So we use 3 different types of nuts, actually 2 different types of nuts, a root vegetable. We use a nut protein. So we use almonds and hazelnuts, and they both have great fat profiles, monounsaturated, polyunsaturated fats that help with mood balance and help with focus and brain health. We use almond protein, which is more expensive than typical ingredients, but it's great and it's a really, really good source of protein and has a great flavor profile. We also use tiger nut flour, which is a root vegetable that has the same or similar nutritional profile as a nut, like an almond or a hazelnut. The only cool thing about it is it has more naturally occurring fibers and protein. And so these nuts and root vegetables have a bunch more fiber and more protein than any, coconut flour or tapioca flour or any of these other grain-free flours. Less carbs, more fiber, better, healthier fats. But we also use the root vegetable because we want the fats to be in balance. We don't want this is not a keto product. This is a nutrient balanced product. That's why you can eat 2 cookies and you only have 8 to 10 grams of fat instead of like these other keto products that have like 18, 20 grams of fat. They're way too dense calorically speaking. In terms of the sweetener, we didn't use coconut sugar, but we wanted to make sure Coconut sugar is a good alternative, but we use a very simple fruit sugar, apple juice, low glycemic apples. So they're diabetic friendly, and we only add 2 grams of sugar per cookie from low glycemic apples. So it's like eating an apple. If we're going to add sugar, we want to add the simplest sugars that our bodies can read. And fructose is something that's naturally occurring. And then we just added a little bit of extra fiber from the agave plant. And almond butter, coconut oil, a little bit of that. But that's really it. Simple. Fruits, dehydrated fruits, organic dehydrated fruits in our fruit flavored recipes. So like our banana chocolate chip just has real bananas. And you don't need to add much else.
Right. I think that's the interesting thing too, is with the quality and the ingredient, it doesn't necessarily need all these extra things. I think a lot of what we're hearing is functional ingredients. We're providing nutrition. I talk about protein and fiber all the time, right? Prebiotics are coming from your fiber and the fruits and these sources of nutrients that are actually giving our body what we need.
Yep. And they're filling, they're satiating, right? This needs to be well-rounded. Our cookies and all foods need to be well-rounded with nutrients. Like they need to be something that if you do want to binge on 6 cookies, do it. You could feel good about it. But if you want to eat this, you should be able to eat the foods that you love any time of the day and feel really great about it and know that it's actually nourishing your body and your brain and your mind and your gut because it's an ecosystem, right? If you're not balancing out your gut bacteria, then your neurochemicals are messed up. And then, whatever, genetically speaking, depression, those things can be expressed if you're not creating that balance within your body. So, foods need to contribute to that. They're a major element in well rounded, just well being.
1,000%. And one of the things, I guess, sort of wrapping this up a little bit, like, I know you say you're on a mission to change the way people eat. And, we're in very similar places, going about things in different ways, but on similar paths. And so I'm curious to hear from you, like, what do you want everyone to know?
The foods that we love, like the classic foods that we love, can be really, really healthy and need to be. So I don't want to change the way people eat. I want to change the way people think about eating the classics that they have missed or that they want to eat all the time. That's what I want. I want people to be
Awesome.
able to get healthier by eating the things that they love.
1,000%. I love it. All right. Are you ready for our rapid fire off topic questions?
Lay it on me. Let's do it.
All right. What's the best thing you've done for your health this week? And what's the naughtiest thing you've done related to your health this week?
Best thing I've done for my health is yesterday I did a tread climber, like up a rock, basically up this wall at the gym, sprinted, and then did the stepper for like 10 minutes. I was dripping and it was great. And listened to my favorite music. Worst thing I did this week, I drank like 7 or 8 cups of coffee, worked until 11 o'clock at night, and ate a whole block of low-fat cheese at 11:30 and woke up extremely bloated and then sweat all day the following day. So I run the spectrum of healthy to non-healthy because I still do have those obsessive tendencies, especially when I'm stressed. And that's okay. No shame around that. Yeah.
Totally. We're all a work in progress. All right. If you weren't a chef and the founder of what would you do?
I would likely be a psychologist in the area of neuroscience. Yeah.
All right. Your favorite book on any topic other than your area of expertise could be a fiction book.
There's a book by Pema Chodron. She's a Buddhist writer, and she's helped me a lot with internal conflicts. It's called, I can't think of the name. Sorry. You want to
No,
go
that's
to
okay. What'd you think it was called? It'll help us find it. We'll Google.
It's called Living Beautifully, actually. Pema Chodron.
Amazing.
Yeah. And it's living life and beautifully with uncertainty and change. And it just instills a lot of Buddhist practices into everyday life and just understanding, just really accepting. And yeah, it's beautiful.
I'm adding it to my list. If you could cure one ailment, disease, or sickness, what would it be?
Judgment.
That's a
separation.
good one.
Judgment and separation between people. Yeah. Or ailment and sickness, not honoring all of the parts that come up in all of us and not being able to really express what's going on in the public space. I think it's so important for us to be able to do that.
Agreed. All right, if you were a superhero, what would be your superpower?
I would be able to expand time. I'd have like 30 to 40 hours in a day. Or
What's your,
sleep less.
Yeah. Right, need to sleep less, yeah. What's your biggest pet peeve?
People that are not doing work on themselves and then imposing their own projections on other people. And they're not in my life, but
right. But I know they're out there.
oh, they're definitely out there, and they come in, and then you have to sift through and say, okay, really wish you the best, but I'll wish you well. Yeah.
Totally. All right, last one. In your opinion, what's the next frontier in wellness?
I think it relates to work-life balance. I think we should never be going back to like working 50, 60, 70 hours a week again. Like there needs to be a balance and people need to take care of their mental health and have that space to do that with work. I don't know if that's a good answer, but
yeah, no, I mean, I think we're definitely heading there.
Yeah.
So, Well, thank you again for being here. I appreciate your time and your expertise. Tell everybody
Thank
how
you.
to connect with you, where to find Mli.
Follow me personally on Instagram, Nick.Naclerio, Naclerio, or follow our food Instagram. Well, it's eatmly.com, EATMMMLY, not .com. It's just eatmly on Instagram. We're on Amazon. We're in New York. We're in Fresh Market, Juice Press, Fresh & Co. West Side Market will be in some other larger retailers later this year, Sprouts and potentially Whole Foods too. So all of that is underway right now, and that's where we're available. But yeah,
Exciting.
thank you, Jen. Really
Yeah.
appreciate your time.
Yeah. By the way, everybody, you guys, I've had all the Mli flavors. They're amazing. I highly recommend. I'm going to have to go order another box now. So delicious. Love them. Nick, do you have another minute to hang out for our nutrition nugget?
Sure.
So this week we're talking about green beans. And okay, I get it. Green beans are the opposite of exciting. But I think it's more because when we think of them, we think of the canned green beans that were probably more gray than green and this salty, mushy food, or green bean casserole, right? And I feel like the food world has really just done a disservice to the green bean. So, we'll briefly review the nutrition and then we'll get into how to pick them and make them so that they're, more interesting and more delicious so we can add them into our repertoire. So first, green beans or string beans, same. They are packed with nutrition. So they give us protein, fiber, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and the benefits are really all sort of tie into longevity, right? Definitely a win here. So when we look at the nutrition, a cup of green beans has about 32 calories, 2 grams of protein, 0 fat, 6 grams of carbs, of which we have 2 grams of fiber and 2 grams of sugar. So on the vitamin front, we get about 12 milligrams of vitamin C. Many of us think about vitamin C for our immune health, and it's also involved in producing collagen and protecting our skin from oxidative stress, so especially in the summer. Vitamin C is an antioxidant. I always think of it too as nature's antihistamine. So love the vitamin C in the green beans. They also give us vitamin A or retinoids, which support immune health, skin health, vision health, and even reproduction. In a cup of raw green beans, we get 690 IUs or international units of vitamin A. These are really, I think, the big ones, but your cup of raw green beans also has vitamin K, a little thiamine, niacin, B6, and vitamin E. On the minerals front, we talked a lot about minerals in our episode on hydration, but minerals are critical for metabolism and bones and healing. So a cup of raw green beans gives you 37 milligrams of calcium, about a milligram of iron, 25 milligrams of magnesium, 38 milligrams of phosphorus, 211 milligrams of potassium, and about a quarter of a milligram of zinc. So all in, we can really benefit from the vitamins, minerals, and the macronutrients from green beans. So let's get into, picking them, making them taste better than the food that you probably avoided as a kid, right? So as I often say, we want to eat seasonally as much as possible. And green bean season is summer to fall. So that's why we're talking about them now. Fresh is ideal. Next best would actually be frozen. And you could even freeze your own, buy them in season and then freeze them yourself. Canned is really not our best option. Canned fruits and vegetables can have a lot of other added ingredients, especially sodium with the green beans. If you are using canned string beans, rinse them really well. I think that's probably the best tip I can give you for canned green beans. If you want to grow them yourself, it's recommended to look for pole or bush varieties. Personally, I have whatever is the opposite of a green thumb. So I'm going to go to the farmer's market and buy them. I am not going to try to grow them. But, maybe that's up your alley. Grow something with your kid. Anyway, when you're shopping, right, we want to look for bright green color on them. We don't want to see any black spots or blemishes, and they should be firm. Like if you hold one end of it, it should sort of stand, not like flop over. You can keep them in the fridge in a plastic bag for about a week, typically. And then when it comes to eating them, you can eat them raw. I think people forget this, and then they cook them to smithereens. Raw green beans also give us, I think, the biggest nutritional bang for the buck, especially if you eat them soon after they're harvested. It's, again, even better. Cooking green beans may deplete the vitamin C and B vitamins, right? Those water-soluble vitamins. And thawing frozen green beans can also deplete their nutrition. So if you're using frozen green beans, just add them frozen to whatever you're making, or use a little bit of water and cook them for as short a time as possible. Basically, like don't thaw them and then cook them. Also, cooking does seem to impact the fat-soluble vitamins A, E, and K. So just keep that in mind, right, as we're looking to kind of expand our repertoire. Maybe raw string beans are a great option. To prep your string beans, just trim the tail end, like the part that has where the bean like attached to the plant, and cut off any soft spots or blemishes, and then wash them. So in our episode with, the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen, green beans weren't on the list, but they're about sort of in the middle in terms of how many pesticides are typically found on them. So I know I keep harping on this. I'm a fan of raw string beans. Add them the next time you do like a crudité platter. I think they're really crunchy and can be kind of sweet, actually. My next favorite option is to blanch them. So you boil water, drop them in the boiling water for a few seconds, and then put them directly into ice water. And that actually stops the cooking. This also helps preserve the color. So you could then freeze them blanched. They're also great. You could chop up the blanched ones and add them to a salad if you don't want them totally raw. If you're buying from like a supermarket instead of the farmer's market, you may not want to eat them raw. In this case, they likely ripened not on the vine and they ripened in a truck and were probably sprayed with chemicals to help ripen them. We talked about that a little bit in our episode on glyphosates and stuff. So in those scenarios, raw green beans will be a little higher in lectins, which can cause some indigestion. And so in those cases, just cook them. I mentioned blanching, right, which is cooking them briefly in some boiling water. Don't boil your green beans, right? The surest way to sort of get to the texture that most of us dislike is to boil them to smithereens or to, overcook them. So I think they're best when they still have a little bit of crunch to them. So what that means is like steaming or boiling, like use a fork to poke them at like 3 or 5 minutes. And then even if you turn the burner off, if they're sitting in hot water, they're going to keep cooking. So last piece is like, look at the thickness of them. If you're using the haricot vert variety, which are super thin, they're going to require a lot less time to cook. Some people will saute them, right? You could put them in a pressure cooker. Honestly, any cooking method works. They just don't need a ton of time, whatever method you use. Let's see, typically, I think, adding flavorings and dressings, if you're using vinegar or anything acidic, just wait till the end, like shortly before you serve them. They'll keep their bright color. If you do want to add them, a couple ideas I mentioned, right? Adding cooked or raw string beans to a salad. You could bake them into fries, like, hello, right? Obviously, I'm about the fries. Throw them into soups or stews. Make them as a side dish, right? Even adding them to an existing side dish that maybe is a grain or a pasta. You could pickle them. They're delicious with tomatoes, so even just blanch them or steam them and toss them with grape tomatoes, olive oil, and balsamic vinegar. Roast them with a little Parmesan cheese. It's really like seasoning-wise, again, you can sort of do whatever you want with them, but I sort of think about seasoning with green beans in sort of 2 categories, right? There's the more savory where you could do like mushrooms and onions or nuts, or like the citrusy vinegary thing with like balsamic vinegar or lemon, garlic, olive oil, chilies, liquid aminos for, the soy sauce kind of flavor. You could do like tzatziki and hummus or nutritional yeast for cheesy flavor. Like there are even some recipes that'll do like maple syrup and liquid smoke. So you can really get super creative. The possibilities are endless. Even just, change it up by using yellow or purple string beans, right? So we can now add string beans back into our repertoire. They are far more than the mushy, salty canned string beans of the 1970s and 80s, I think. And it can be a fun way to sort of change things up without having to completely, change our grocery list, right? So Nick, you're a chef. Anything to add?
Green beans with raw green beans with olive oil, tahini, and a little bit of lemon. So good.
Yum.
Yeah, I love
Amazing.
tahini. I love tahini and I love crunchy raw green beans.
Same. Awesome. Well, Nick, thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Jen.
Awesome. As always, everybody, I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck. Connect with me on Instagram or really all social media. I'm at Jenn Trepeck, JENNTREPECK. So whether on social media or our website, asaladwithasideofries.com, reach out. I want to hear your takeaways, your questions, any ideas you have. This is also the easiest way to learn more about working with me as your health coach. Of course, if you're not already a member, join our membership program by going to glow.fm/saladwithasideofries. This really shows your support for this podcast, this community, but above all, it really supports your health. You'll get this week's recipe for the healthier blackberry basil lemonade, which, like I said, you could turn into a cocktail or a popsicle. And you're getting 20% off your first order from Umli. So until next week, remember that there's a difference between foods that are free of certain ingredients and foods that are actually providing nutritional value. It's really incumbent on each of us as active consumers to look at the labels, dig a little deeper, and make the best choices for ourselves and our families. Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform, share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it and you are worth it. Happy healthy.